Muy buenas tardes, otra vez aquí con ustedes la comadre B, deseándoles una muy bonita semana. I do hope it has been treating you well. Here I am bringing you another episode of Comadreando aquí y con café. I'm almost hitting my 100th episode sit down, so big stuff for me. Um, I've been out. I am so sorry, pero I was doing that whole last minute school thing, year end, you know how that goes. Get cupcakes and pizza and this and activities and pick them up and drop them off, all that stuff. Pero ya acabamos y gracias a Dios, I am en route to having a sixth grader this year coming up. Con eso, pues quiero mandarle un saludo como siempre a mi mom. Hi mom, ¿cómo estás? Y también esta vez quiero mandarle un saludo a somebody that watches me allá en México. Se llama Jonathan. Y pues sí, la semana pasada me escribió unas cosas muy bonitas y pues como le dije a él, está malito ahorita. Mis deseos son que con medicina y fe se arregle pronto y todo salga muy bien. Y pues te mando un saludo, Jonathan. Y como dije, me mira él allá desde la Ciudad de México. Te mando un muy fuerte abrazo y como dije, que te recuperes muy pronto. Este episodio te la dedico a ti, este show. So, ojalá y te guste y aprendas algo nuevo de acá de nuestra historia de los Estados Unidos. Today is June 1st, Thursday, June 1st. So don't forget to say White Rabbit 3 times for your luck and money and this and that. So go ahead and say it. I'll wait. Good job. With today, yeah, it's officially half year. So apúrense. What you guys said you were gonna do, get on the ball, cause time's ticking, man. So ahí vamos en friega. Denle marcha lo que dijeron que iban a hacer. So con eso, con la fecha y todo, I am going to roll into the subject of the day. Today marks 102-year anniversary. Anniversary of what, you ask? A ver, let's think. ¿Qué pasó? It was the most horrific white mob crime ever committed in the United States. Yes. What was it? The Tulsa Race Massacre, also known as the Black Wall Street. ¿Qué es? Pues, I will tell you. This goes back to 1902. There was a community within the community, if that makes any sense, which was called as Greenwood, and it was found in the city of Tulsa, which is the state of Oklahoma. Confusing much? Kinda yes, kind of no. We go back to 1902, like I said. So this was the big time racist times when blacks and whites were not supposed to mix. So if you are thinking to what I am getting to, you are right. Is the community for the black people, which made them segregated. They weren't allowed to mix or anything. But see, the story isn't all bad. The northern part of Tulsa. In 1905, there was a discovery of oil in the ground. So se vinieron toda la raza. Like I said before, it's a black community. So empezaron a llegar en burros, en carros, en tren, you name it, they were coming via this mode of transportation. Everybody wanted in on this black community oil dwelling that was going on. You can pretty much say that Greenwood became the booming town of the moment. This became obviously the black settlement area. There was 40 complete square blocks in this community, where once again, like I said, was strictly for the black people. There was a señor by the name of initials O.W. Gurley. He was the developer that started these houses in this area. He had a vision. He said, whoa, we can make this big. We can blow this up. Like, this is the moment we've been waiting for. Us, the black people, we are going to rise. This is it. This guy, Gurley, gathered forces with a guy named Stafford. So these two guys together, like I said, were developers of the city, And yeah, they were sitting here big on education, sitting here motivating their community to be better and bigger people. Meaning, we are business owners, we are gonna be landowners at one point, and we're just gonna make this happen. You know, slavery ended, we're done with it. We are today, let's make this happen. This community had everything of their own. They had funeral parlors, they had movie theaters, they had cafes of all kinds, they had restaurants of all kinds, they had their own black public library, which in that time was huge, guys. They also had their own photography studio. They had a bunch of doctors, they had surgeons, they had everything you can think of. And it was once again just in these limits of Greenwood village, town, whatever you want to call it. So it was big. It was booming. It was really positive. It was big. People were happy. They lived comfortable. It was even nicknamed the Black Wall Street of America by Booker T. Washington. He said, yeah, like, we are doing great things. We are the Black Wall Street of America. They did so well porque entre ellos they kept their business together. They weren't allowed to mix their dollars anywhere else. The money they had in their community was not wanted on the other side of the tracks. So in their defense, it helped them a lot to double their money, triple their money, and be super successful. On top of that, they had all the oil that they were dwelling, so they had it made, right? Well, a little bit further down the line, there was un señor. His name was Andrew Jackson Smitherman. Este señor era un attorney. That was his actual occupation. But he also used to be involved with the journalism. He was a journalist. So este señor was sitting and thinking like, man, our neighborhood over here, our community needs a newspaper. They had newspapers on the other side of town, which they would get, pero todo era bad news. It just accused all the black people of committing crimes. Front cover all the time pretty much was a black person being lynched. ¿Qué es lynched? Hang, cuando los horcan y los cuelgan. So este señor Andrew dice, you know, I'm a journalist. Let me put my whole craft to work and start a paper. And he did. He started writing a daily newspaper with their community, which was called Tulsa Star. Now, his paper didn't just focus on the bad. It was more of just all positive stuff, achievements that the local community was doing, milestones, kids, you know, all the news from your neighborhood, like good stuff. Like I mentioned before, the white people newspaper just had all the bad news, the lynchings, they did this, they did that. No, this one was to be a positive point for this community to have their own paper. So now we're in the summer of 1919. And obviously times are now changing. In this neighborhood, in the neighboring communities, they started to see a big rise in the neighborhoods of racial terror. So, ¿qué, dónde, or what? It was constantly on the papers. Back then no había like tele, so you know, they would hear about it or read about it. Arkansas, you got Tennessee, you have DC, you have New York. Even there in Tulsa itself, things were getting really, really bad and crazy with all this violence going on with the blacks against the whites and the whites against the blacks. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? Yeah, like, eso pienso yo también, like, why? Envidia, raza. La mendiga envidia. The white people were so envious against the blacks because they were so successful. They had a lot going for themselves. They were advancing big time, and especially in the city of Tulsa, in the state of Oklahoma. Now we're in 1921, a couple years forward. We are in full tension, guys, full tension. ¿Qué es eso? Se sentía la tensión entre la raza allí, no se querían. Especially the white supremacist people were like just waiting to get at these black people. Why? They were jealous, and they had a lot of resentment that the blacks were making so much better everything out of their life than the other people that were here in Tulsa. Okay, so at this point, you're probably sitting here watching me and maybe rolling your eyes or picking your tooth or something, saying, what the heck does this have anything to do with the 102nd anniversary of whatever the heck she said? I will tell you. I will tell you. Ahí les voy a contar pues. But, this is one of those stories, like I always say, that was never in the history books at school. I personally had never even heard of this till the other day my husband was telling me about it. And I started looking into it, and I was like, gosh darn it, the anniversary is coming up, and here we are. I'd never read about it, I've never heard about it, I've never seen anything in relation to this, so it caught me off guard big time, because you guys know I'm all about history and todo lo ocurrido, so I was like, what the heck? Okay, so that's why here I am, because you all know I am a total advocate about the truth. We all need to know the truth. So, this horrific 2-day incident, dramatic event, actually started on May 31st, which was their Memorial Day weekend in 1921. What happened? There was this kid. His name was Dick Rowland. So this kid was a football player for their high school there in the community of Greenwood. A good one too. And he was son of a businessman there. Not a big important one, but he was known. He had power and he owned a business. Okay, the story has it that this kid, Dick, decided to just drop out of school and get a job downtown. And he became a shoe shiner. So he was working at a shoe shine parlor. Okay, if his dad had money, this is not why he worked there. I don't know either. Maybe self-independence. Who knows? This is the story though, so this is what I'm reporting back to you. Well, this guy worked for a shoe shine parlor that was, I guess, mingled with a white owner as well. I don't know how that happened, but that's the story. And in the area where he was working, no había baños para la gente negra. Back then, you guys know that whites used the restroom, blacks used the restroom, and Mexicans had their own restroom as well. If you didn't know, now you know. Something new. Okay, so the story va que el muchacho quería usar el baño. He had to pee. So the owner of the parlor obviously told him, okay, you have to walk down here, Main Street. You hit the big building, and once you get there, you go in the elevator, go on the 4th floor, and I have assigned bathrooms for the black people to use, my black workers. So this kid's like, okay, pues ahí voy. Yeah, he started walking down Main Street. He found the big building. He goes in, making his way upstairs to the 4th floor as he was told. Obviously, he had to go into an elevator. Inside the elevator, había otra muchacha around his age. She was about 17 years old, 18 years old. And she was the elevator operator. For you guys that don't know, back then, watch Titanic real quick. The elevators used to slide this little door, push the button, and go up. Era otro rollo, pues. Anyways, ahí estaba esta muchacha. Se llamaba Sarah Page. She was the elevator operator. So, ahí van para arriba. There they go, up, up, up. Well, el elevator iba jumpy. So, somewhere in between getting up to the 4th floor, el elevator, it jerked. El muchacho fell forward, kind of brushing himself on her, whatever he maybe hit her with the shoe. They don't even know exactly what happened. Pero el caso que esta muchacha empezó a grite y grite que rape, rape, rape. So this guy's scared, stop, stop, I'm not doing nothing to you. Well, they get to the 4th floor, the door opens, and they both run out of the elevator. The kid obviously, I guess, went to the restroom. A business owner that was there on the 4th floor that heard her scream came to help her out. La está consolando, que this and that. They decided to call the police. Well, Dick was nowhere to be found, whatever. The next morning, la policía llega a la casa de Dick. They knock on the door. They see him, they said, vámonos. And his dad's like, what's going on? This, not. They just said he committed a crime. They took him. Ok, pues ahí va el papá del muchacho este a la policía. And he goes with other friends of his that también son business owners, people with bigger power than him. They go over there and, he starts talking to the sheriff right there. He says, you know what, sheriff, check it out. Ese es mi hijo. I know him very well. He is incapable of trying to rape any woman. Okay, in those days, the whole thing about blacks with white was like a big old taboo. It was like really bad. So there was an actual like little law or whatever that was going around in those times. And this was referred to as sanctity of the white womanhood. What did this sanctity say? That everybody had to protect their white women against the black beast. Black beast who what? The cocaine bear? No, not the cocaine bear. They were referring to any black male. Horrible, harsh, much? Yes, I think so. They referred to every black male as the beast. So, as you can imagine, the sheriff is telling the kid's dad, we got the sanctity going, your son did this, your son did that. They argued the whole point. There's no possible way that he could have raped or molested her within these seconds of going from the pretty much half of first floor up to the fourth floor. It's impossible. But, it was her word against his word. The owner that helped her, that seen her all crying, I'm assuming she probably got real surprised because she was already nervous enough that there was a black guy with her on the elevator. If the elevator did jerk and he like fell forward, touched her or kicked her, whatever, maybe se espantó, por eso estaba ella grite y grite. She didn't have to continue with this whole story that he raped her, because at this point, like the news is, first page in the morning news on the paper was a story that this kid Dick was being held because he had raped this girl on the elevator the day before. Well, they called her in, they called Sarah in, the sheriff. He started asking her questions, gave her paperwork to sign, and she never wanted to sign anything. She stuck to her story, que la había violado, but she didn't sign nothing. So even though this is going on, just because he's black and because his dad was somebody, they really wanted him, and they wanted him bad. Well, the entire black community marched out there with the dad. Like I said, there was a bunch, not the entire, but a lot of the more bigger power community on the black side showed up. They were trying to get bail on this kid. They were sitting there like, you know what, we're not leaving till you release him. We want justice. You can't be treating my kid like that just because he's black. She's not signing nothing. She's obviously lying. Like, something's going on. You need to look it up. So now the cops that are here at the jail, the court, they're like really pissed off. They're like sitting there, how dare these uppity up Negroes come over here trying to demand justice, trying to demand this and that. Like, nah, this ain't gonna happen. We're gonna sit here, let's do this, let's figure this out and get it done with. They wanted to hang this boy, they wanted to lynch him, because back then that's what they would do for any or all crimes committed. Well, like I mentioned earlier, the paper was talking about this story, so it didn't help any. Next thing you know, not only were the black community out there waiting for their kid to be released, a lot of the white people started showing up in crowds, big crowds. By the time it was like midday or whatever, it was already up to 500 people in the white group. That is like huge. So now, AJ Smitherman, I mentioned before, he's a lawyer and he's an activist y todo. He starts seeing these mob of white people and he gets involved. He says, you know what? We're not going to let one of our own fall. Let me get involved. I'm going to go talk to them, the court. We're going to get this kid released. let's see what happens. I'm 100% I boy. So he put that plan into place. The next morning, a group of black World War I vets were gonna go down to the court. They were dressed in their uniforms. They had their pistols, their shotguns, their rifles. They were armed and ready for whatever was gonna happen. So they walked down to the court. Outside the court is still the kid's dad. A bunch of the black community men are out there too, waiting and trying to see about this release with this kid. So one of these vets, the one in charge, comes and talks to Sheriff McAuliffe. He was the one in charge. And he says, hey, what's going on with this kid? He didn't do it. His dad, everybody says it's not true. The girl ain't signing no paper saying that it's true. Can you guys please release him? So the sheriff assures them nothing's gonna happen. No pasa nada. Nadie se va a colgar. We're just gonna really, you're just blowing this up. Nothing's gonna happen. With the words of the sheriff, the vet group believed him. So they, left outside peacefully. No hubo desmadre, no hubo nada. Ya se fueron calladitos and just seeing what the heck is going on. So saliendo ahí la court, los white people see all this. Y pues se encabronan. What the heck is this? They're brave. They're bold. They look good in their uniform. They're armed. They know what they're talking about. They're educated. So they start going home, these white people, not giving up. They were going home to get their own weapons and to bring more people with them. They're like, hey, their army out there, their group is big. We need you guys. Vámonos. Coming back to the courthouse, there's a total of 800 white people now, men with weapons, enojados, listos para empezar desmadre y medio. So things ya se están calentando. It's getting really ugly. Wow, the black people are coming in también by numbers, big numbers, because it's been hours and hours the kid's not released. So they're very sure that there's going to be a hanging any minute now, and they weren't going to let this happen. So ahí están los vets with their guns, a bunch of the black community with all their guns, the white people with their guns, y parecen perros en las yardas. They're just looking at each other, gruñendo, whatever. Okay, so empieza uno con sus cosas. Ahí va un white guy. Y le dice a un negro, dice, what are you doing with this gun? Right? So goes like that to his rifle. So the black man goes, what is it to you? It's my gun. So the white guy goes to try to snatch his gun from him. So the black guy is trying to push the white guy away from him. Next thing you know, they're in a struggle together, trying to get this gun back and forth. Que suena un disparo, boom. Y luego otro boom, y otro boom. Next thing you know, empieza todo el desmadre, el alboroto. There's people fighting with people. They're socking each other up. People kicking each other. People shooting each other. You name it, they were doing it to create violence and pain upon each other. Ser desmadre y medio. To the words of one of the witnesses that was there, he said, all hell broke loose. Loose. They fought all night. May 31st. All night. There was mobs of these white people terrorizing black families. They would just run in their house, set curtains on fire, throw fire in through the window buildings, sit there and just blow up this Greenwood community. Black Wall Street was, in the morning, a smoking ruin scene. That's it. Puros ruins. It was still smoky. The sky was cloudy. All the buildings were gone. There was over 1,200 houses that were destroyed due to these fires. All these people, arsony. Out of the 40 blocks, 35 of them were completely burned down. So these white people were in there with fangs, querían sangre, no nomás querían, no, they wanted to knock these people out of the map. There's a grand total of 800 people that were injured. There was a total of 183 that were seriously very injured. And this is both sides of the race. It doesn't say if it was just whites, if it was just blacks. The death rate is very unknown, still up to right now, 102 years later. Their guess is there was about 300 people that were murdered, killed during this massacre that took place. They're not sure, like I said. Since a lot of things were gone and missing, people went missing, they weren't sure if they were dead or they just ran away with fear. They don't know. But there was an estimate of 300 or a little bit more people that were unfortunately killed. Guns, explosive, arson, and being looters are the cause of the destruction that happened here in this community. Back in that day, the whole damage was added to $1.8 million. That's what their estimate was. In today's value, today, 2023, it would be $27 million. That's insane. $27 million worth of damages that occurred. This was so bad the night before, like I said, the white people marched on over, crossed the railroad tracks, went into Greenwood, just were doing all this horrible stuff, that it was out of control. It was just so much destroying everywhere. Martial law was declared. And the National Guard was even brought in, guys. That's how big this desmadre was. The National Guard had to come inside and, stop and help and see what they could do. So now quedó el aftermath. What happened? Pues nada. Nobody was ever held accountable. This was nobody's fault. Nobody did nothing. So, como quien dice, aventaron todas las piedras y escondieron la mano. And nothing came out of it. No big deal. Whatever. They still had their house on that side. What happened with Greenwood? All the survivors had to live in tent cities till they were able to start picking up pieces little by little. And that was months, a year. And it was horrible because you had a full family sitting in a tent in the middle of nothing. After a year or so, all this was just a horrible memory. There was no documents. Everything went missing. The entire case went missing. Her statement was gone, missing también. The newspaper articles were all gone. They couldn't even trace it back or find it. Like, there was no such record of anything that had happened. But there were a lot of pictures still surfacing, and the group, which was now identified as the KKK, they were heavy. Like I said, the white supremacists. They were the ones that had all these pictures, and they had them like souvenirs, a prize to look at because they were proud of it, They considered it a souvenir of racially charged crimes. Bien orgullosos que estaban estos desgraciados. And they labeled it the Tulsa Race Riots. The black people didn't buy it, they didn't like it, they didn't believe it, they didn't accept it. They knew it as the Tulsa Race Massacre. Fue un masacre. Se metieron a matar nomás. ¿Qué más? The weird and most disturbing and disgusting thing out of all of this, bodies were never found. They never found any dead people lingering. That's why I said the amount of the toll that they have for the dead, they're not sure because they never found the bodies. Who took them? Where'd they go? Who knows? About 3 years ago, there was an article that was shown on YouTube. If you look it up, believe me, a lot of this comes up. There was un viejito, ya está bien viejito. He's a white guy. And he said he witnessed as a child trucks of the white community that had their trucks rolling that were involved in this event, que traían las trocas llenas de dead bodies, and they would go into this Panteón, Oakland Cemetery, and they were just dumping bodies there like a mass grave or something. Nobody ever knew. The cemetery wasn't aware that this was happening, that this had happened. But the city said it wasn't worth them opening an investigation on this case again because it's been 100 years already. They said just let it go, it ain't worth it, who cares. Quedó espinita. They started looking en un avión arriba, and they did see 3 points that looked off. So the mayor now, present mayor right now, 2023, says that he is interested in reopening this whole incident, the whole, record, and to look into these 3 areas in the cementerio, because he says to him it's really important to try to get closure and see what happened. Where did these bodies go? Were they really dead, or were they scared and they ran away? Like, he wants people to have closure about their family members and know exactly what happened. So con eso, raza, los dejo el día de hoy. Situaciones gachas que han pasado, very unfortunate, very ugly. Every so many years the world has their faces, and that was it back then. Slavery is horrible. The whole racism act was horrible as well. Like, they never caught a break. It's all bad. There's no other way to put it. It's all bad. So, be a better person in your heart. Be a better person with your children. Show them a prettier world, because it could be a better place. Hopefully I shared with you guys something you didn't know. Like I said, I didn't know, and I feel it's very important for our U.S. history to be out there. Y pues sí, ahí con eso we will turn the page, continue our 2023. Y pues I want to wish you all a good, nice weekend. Please don't drink, don't drive. If you're not following me yet, please do so. Like, subscribe, and hit that pinche campanita. I appreciate your time, because time is very precious. Y pues ahí los miro. Bye.